Today is Vayera Teives Tashin Ayin, where this is shared quality for Parshas Vayera.
Alright, so slightly unusually, we're turning right to the very first Pesukim in do you have a Chumash? We're turning to the very first Pesukim in this week's Parsha, Parsha Vayera. Vayidaber Elikim El Moshe Hayom Elov Ani Havaya, the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, which we call the Shem Havaya. Just become used to that for the rest of the Shir. We'll refer to that Shem as the Shem Havaya. Vayera, and I appeared El Avram, El Yitzchak, El Yankov, Bekel Shin Daled Yud. I appeared in the form of Kel Shin Daled Yud, Ushmi Havaya Lo Nodaiti Lahem. I didn't make known to them literally my Shem, which is Havaya. V'gam hakimesi as brisi itom. I also stood firm or made firm a covenant with them. Lo seis lahem es eretz Canaan, to give them the land of the Canaanites, eis eretz mugureihem asher goru bo. The country that they lived in is going to be theirs. V'gam ani shamaiti es na'akas b'nei Yisrael. I've heard all the suffering of the Jewish people, and therefore I'm going to remember my covenant with the Ovis. And then he finalizes by saying, Lochein emer livnei Yisrael ani ha-Shem, ani Havaya. And then four famous, what are called the Arba L'Shenes HaGeula, Hoitzeisi, V'hitzalti, V'goalti, V'lokachti. They're the four famous L'Shenes. So, what attracts the eye of the attentive reader right at the very first glance in the Parsha is Vayidaber Elikim El Moshe. Now the Shem Elokim is generally indicatory of Gevura, Tzimtzum, Mishpat, sharpness. Vayidaber Elikim El Moshe, Vayera Teives, and he said to him, Ani Havaya, I am the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, known well to all us as indicating L'mayla harbe v'ein arich m'Shem Elokim. The inner of Shem Havaya is the Shem Ha'etzem, the Shem HaMiyuchad, the Shem which is miyuchad and united mamish with the Eibishter's atzmiyah, with his etzem, the Shem which is l'maylami, gvulim beligvu, l'mayla mikol ha-medidas v'akbolas kiyadua, and hoye v'yeh ke echad, as man and all those in Yom are all betelim legamrei in atzmiyah. And that's the union clearly of the Shem Havaya, how he is built mugbal klal. So how can Moshe Rabbeinu say, or how can Hashem say to Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayidaber Elikim, Elokim spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he said to him, Ani Havaya, well that's a contradiction, Menayu, obey. If he's talking to him in the name of Shem Elokim, then he can't say Vayem Elov Ani Havaya. If he wanted to say, Vayem Havaya El Moshe Ani Havaya, or just Moshe Shoma Mi Hashem Ani Havaya, or Vayidaber Elikim El Moshe, and then saying Ani Havaya. So that's the first great surprising tamir that we notice. And then immediately following that, Vayera, I appeared, and that's Lashon Re'iyah. intending a high madrega of having appeared in a form of vision, in the simple sense, to whom Avram Yitzchak v'Yanki. What Rashi goes out of his way to say in Hashem Kloli about the three forefathers, that they were Oves. There's the famous Rashi at the beginning of that pasuk where he says Vayera Elha ha'Oves, which is not written in the pasuk, and it's written only Avram Yitzchak Yankiv, and yet nonetheless Rashi said Vayera Elha ha'Oves. Why did he need to say that? Because there's something very special about the Avram Yitzchak Yankiv that you need to know in this particular point, that they are the fathers. You can't avoid Pirush Kol Inyan Azeh if you don't remind yourself that they are the Oves. Pirush Kedushas Admor Melech HaMashiach, one of the famous Sikhs, that's why Rashi did that, because it's a Inyan Ikri in Havanas HaParasha. So we'll come to that as we go along, Be'ez Hashem. But how did I appear to them? Only in the form of Keil Shah, Shin Dalet Yud. That's how I appeared to them. And I appeared to them very really. It was in the form of almost like vision and Ria. But it was only in that level. It wasn't the Shem Havaya. Loi Noi Daiti Lo. I didn't inform them. But now, you've got to go to the Jewish people and tell them what's happening now. After all the Golos and after I've heard what is going on, I'm aware of what is happening. You shouldn't think that I'm not some slave, says the Eibishter. Now we're going to tell all the Yidden, Ani Havaya, and once you know that, then you get out of all the Golos, and there'll be the Hoitzeisi, V'lakachti, V'hitchalti, V'goalti, V'lakachti, we told them, the Milas of the Giura. So I asked myself, the Shaila B'derecha, what is the kesher from all these in Yonim? And what's the Inyan of Keil Shaddai compared to the Inyan of the Shem Havaya? And what's the Inyan of Elohim telling Moshe Rabbeinu that it's really Havaya? He's really the Inyan of Havaya. So comes along Rashi, and without going into all the delicate details of Rashi at the beginning of the passage, it's well known. Many are those details and many are the dikdukim in Rashi. Derech HaPoshut, Rashi connects the statement of a Yidaber Elohim El Moshe with what happened immediately at the end of last week's parasha. And at the end of last week's parasha, we meet an amazing phenomenon whereby Moshe Rabbeinu comes to his Mishaleach, his sender, who is the one who sent him on the whole Shlichus. He comes to him with a Akashia, and he says, Lamo, Hara'isa la'amha hazeh. Have you made evil for this people? V'lamo zeh shlach toni. I've got a kasha on the ikaha shlichus, on the etzim shlichus that you sent me b'shuma. Ki mi'oz bosi l'daber el parei heiro la'am hazeh. He's made much worse for this people. V'hatzel loy hitzalto es amecha, and you have not rescued your people. Now that's pretty sharp. That's pretty sharp going on Moshe Rabbeinu's part. The Moshe Rabbeinu asks, he asks a kushia kladius, but it's divided into sub-kushias. What they hit at the etzim concept of his shlichus and the whole idea of what's the sin in it, things have got worse. And the goal seems to become heavier and less bearable to the most extreme point from the moment that I began talking in your name to Pare, and from the moment that we were machlis that there's going to be the Geula taken from Miyaz. So Moshe Rabbeinu, he's got a good time. I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu, what you might call Milmata L'mayla, Mitzad Mekablim. Moshe Rabbeinu's got a good time. He has he's got a, what you might almost call a justifiable kashia, that Bimkom, that all the inyanim he would imagine, he had imagined would happen, it seems to have all gone, hafuch, opposite direction, to the point that it's become unbearable, the matzava. So, albeit, all sorts of inyanim can be said, that really you shouldn't ask any kashiyas, you just have to go with pshitas, with tmimas. But maybe we could say, just by derech aga, that that's one of the great things of a emissary nasi, and a emissary leader, and a emissary king of the Jewish people. Moshe Rabbeinu is a king, as well known. He had a din of Melech, Moshe Rabbeinu, that he can't, his ikar, what you might call concern, is his flock. As we see in last week's passage, the Rashi brings down that the way Moshe Rabbeinu handled with the small sheep, well, that was the indication that he would be the great leader of our people, because he was concerned with the needs of each and every little shepsele. And even came to the burning bush, having gone out of his way to look for some better grass for some of the sheep, and the ganze Arenas are brought down there. Rashi's mouth with the whole Mila, what the Avishta said, that's an indication that you'll be the leader. In Cain Aemasa Nasi, he looks at him, Milmatala, Lamaila Mitzad Mekablim. So even though in Mitzad his Madregev, he was just on his own, he would be on ABC into the Pneumish of the Pneumius, B'chol Matzav and B'chol Inyan of a Vibal, that his whole Inyan is to be together. And there were the famous beer that's brought down in certain Sforim. Why is it that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go into Eretz Yisrael? If he came up Pirushim, I feel Medrash Chazal, the Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to remain with his Makablim. His main Makablim with the Der Hamidbar. They were his main people. They were his Mushpoim. They were Moshe Rabbeinu's Talmidim and his Mushpoim. And the fellow Moshe Rabbeinu wanted the Pnimis Adorim to remain with them. And therefore he was Kaviyocho Nikvar Ve'eva Hayavni. He didn't go into Eretz Yisrael. And the fellow Moshe Rabbeinu's Inyan Be'ika is Tei V'anir V'anig L'fad Mekablim. And the fellow Moshe Rabbeinu had a kasha. Aber Yeh, the Eivishter, Mitzad, being as he is, the Yudei HaEmes and the Roya Eskola Emes, the Eivishter doesn't like kashas. The Eivishter doesn't really, how do you call it, digest in inverted commas, big inverted commas, kashas. And the father, the old saying by the Chabadske Chassidim, as a kasha is treif. A kasha is not a kosher, it's not a kosher zach to ask a kasha. And if Moshe Rabbeinu Matadi's unbelievable yichud, what is makablim me out to kasha, so therefore says Rashi, Vayidava Elokim, Diber Itoi Mishpat. The Eibishter spoke in the form of Shem Elokim to Moshe as a reaction to that kasha which occurred at the end of last week's parsha, and he spoke with him in a sharp and even al shehiksha ledaber. He asked difficult kashiyas. And he said, why did you? That's a direct shaila, a direct kasha. So the Eibishter spoke sharply back at Moshe Rabbeinu. So the far, according to Rashi, the Vidava Elikim, El Moshe is a sharpness mitzad midasa adin v'agura amluvish in Shem Elikim to the great Nasi and the great Manik Yisrael that he'd ask a kashia. Says Rashi, Ne'eman l'shalem socha teiv l'mitzchalchim l'fona. He said, I am Ne'eman. I'm well believed and I can be well trusted to pay my debts, as it were, to pay my promises to those who go in front of me, literally. They walk with me and they go with me, then for sure I will pay off what I have promised. I haven't sent you for nothing, like your kasha implied. Ki'im l'kayim dvorai, shedibat le'ovis. I had to be the mekayim, the bris that I made with the ovis. Says Rashi, we find in several places that Ani Hashem, or that expression where the Abe says, I am Hashem Havaya, that he means I am well believed to do what I am implying. And sometimes Ani Hashem can be written after a warning against a punishment, so therefore know that I am Hashem Ne'eman and well trusted to carry out my punishment. Or to carry out other forms of what you might call retribution, or when it's legavi something teiv that I promised, then it means that I'm ne'eman to keep my promise in a good way. Edefa, Rashi learns that Vayidaber Elikim is kilo one inyan, Vani Avaya is like a further development on that inyan, but both of them are like a combined reaction to what happened before. And Vayidaber Elikim is a general summing up of the whole tone of Hashem's reaction, the Hainu, Ayin event, sharpness, and din, because of the Kashiyat. And the Avaya, as you ask a Kasha, I'm trusted. In the meantime, things have got bad. You have to be a mishalek lefana. You have to go with me and put up with it and know that I am Ne'eman, and it's going to be very soon, or not to come and ask. Kashiyat. That's Rashi's overcoming of the difficulty of Vayidaber Elikim El Moshe Vayema Ani Havaya. In other words, it's like a reaction to and it's it's like a two-pointed or two-winged reaction. What is Inyan Vayera El Avram Yitzchak Bishkel Shaddai? So Rashi learns that the Inyan from Kel Shaddai is the Inyan of ability on the part of Hashem to keep His promises, and that when He makes promises, for sure they will be kept. And that's the Inyan of what you might call omnipotence that's applied in the word Shin Dalet Yud, and Keil is the Inyan of Isgalas. This is well known. And therefore Rashi says, don't worry, I made them promises, and each one of those promises I said, Ani Keil Shin Dalet Yud. However, says Rashi, I didn't do it yet. I didn't keep any of the promises. So what does it mean? Ani Havaya. I didn't tell them or show them that I was a wife. I didn't keep the promises yet. It was only for later. Now the time is coming for me to keep my promises. Therefore, Ani Hashem, which is higher than the actual Havtocha. The promise is one in, the keeping of the promise is another in, and that's the Shem HaHavah. That's basically how Rashi learns. Then Rashi brings at the end of the passage another whole pirush that he brings in the interchange between Hashem and Moshe at this point. And Rashi brings down B'Shem Rabbi Seinu Zal, B'Shem Medrashi Chazal, that Hashem was saying it more in the form of a taina. You see, the Ovis, I didn't really appear to them in the form of Shem Havaya, and yet they didn't ask any shilas, and they didn't ask any kassan. Look at you, you've had this tremendous revelation of the Shem Havaya, and nonetheless you come with kashiyas, and chaval al da'avdin v'loy mish tachachin, woe to the fact that we lost the forefathers, we can't find them, you're not kilo worth anything like them, etc., etc. It's all very sharp and musadik legavi Moshe Rabbeinu. Over Rashi brings certain kashiyas b'derech pshat on that pirush, and he remains more or less with the first pshat is what he considers more. Or the fact he brought down another pshat means that also has a place. To go into that, that's not the point of our shir at the moment, to be mafalpo in that second pirush in Rashi. So Lefise, B'derech Pashtas, Rashi has settled the kasha what we indicated. What's this statement of Elohim, that it's really Havaya. However, according to Rashi, Vayera, that I appeared to the others, is more an inyan of promising, having made clear to them what was going to be with their generations in the future. That's called Vayera, that I appeared to them. Well, Rashi doesn't learn it so much B'derech Re'iyah, B'pashtas, but more inyan of relying on my promise. So when you rely on a promise from anybody, you're very confident about it. Once a person has promised you, then you're confident that it's going to occur. If the Avish has made a promise, then you're very confident, l'choira. And it should be almost as if you'd seen it already happen. Therefore, Vayera el Avram el Yitzchak el Yaakov, because it was based on inyan, a promise from the Avish to them, it was very clear to them. It was like as if they'd already experienced it already, because they were very pashtus. They mentioned that they went and they were mishalchim lefonai, that therefore there's no doubt that I'm going to pay my, and be'ikah, I'll do it for their sake, because you guys are, as it were, maybe not really worth it, because you already started asking kashiyas. That's more or less the implication of Rashi. So come along, other great maforshim, and they want to say that the statement of the Eibush Vayidaber Elokim Vayema Ani Havaya is talking about a slightly higher principle and a higher inyan, which was necessary to state at this point in order to, first of all, answer or in some way make up for Moshe Rabbeinu's kasha, to in some way or another rectify the minds of the Yidden after the kasha of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Ilu, as a preparation for all in the Yetzias Mitzrayim, you have to know that if Hashem talks B'Shem Elokim, He's really also the Shema Havaya, V'ein Beineihem, as it were, Chilik or Nigud Chasva Cholila. And the far comes along the Rabbeinu B'Chayei and the Ramban, or the Ramban and the Rabbeinu B'Chayei, and they indicate that Vayidaber Elokim El Moshe Vayema Ani Havaya. Elokim, as we pointed out, is Midas Hadin. Havaya is Midas HaRachamim. It's Stam Shem Havaya, according to Medrashi Chazal, the Medrash Rabbah, but Miyuchad, Stam Shem Havaya, B'Kol HaTorah is Shem HaRachamim. The Yin of Midas HaRachamim is that wherever there appears to be a din, there's always a Rachamim. And like one of the other great Mevorshim brings it, Vayidaber Elokim Vayema Elov Ani Hashem Rachum Badin. That Ein Achanami Am Shem Elokim Begoloi sometimes, but in that is the Shema Havaya. The hand of there's always in the divine judgments, there's always Rachamim and mercy. Although we find it Mavur in the Torah, the Alter Rebbe must be in the famous Maimah over there in Parsha Mates, Hecholzu Meitchem. But the Alter Rebbe must be that any punishment al pi Torah is not just a punishment, it's not just a retribution, not so that we get back at a person for having done against Hashem's will, but it's a tikkun and an elevation for him, that at the day that he did fall into a negative thing, and he did fall into a chait, as we'll call it. And the punishment is to correct in him that chait and to literally cleanse him and clarify him from that chait in a way that he'll always be freed in any other way from the weight or the pagam in his neshama and the maila of that chait. And all the punishments of the Torah, even those which are oinish, Rachmanin Shlan, Haipa Chachayim, oinish Misa, their Kavona is Vayera Teives HaMakabel B'Yemet. And even though it looks to be a very sharp din, B'Yemet it's Rachamim. And that's the Yiniv and Ani Havaya, Avidav Elohim, Rachum B'Ti. And the Rabbeinu B'Chaya, he bases himself on a slightly different principle, which quite a number of the Rishonim base themselves on that, and certain people want to say that maybe that's even Rashi's diuk, and he wants to say that Vayidaber is always Lashon sharpness, and Amiro, Lashon Emoyer, is always Lashon, how do you call it, softness, or how do you call it, chain to the makabel, grace and softness to the makabel. Vayidaber is always Lashon sharpness. And they bring one of the chief rabbis when Yosef made difficult times for his brothers, that they went back to Yaakov Avinu, and they said, Vayidaber Ish Adonai Ha'oretz Itanu Koshei. He spoke with us very sharply and very harshly, and it's written Vayidaber Itanu Koshei. So we see that the Yiniv Vayidaber is connected more with the idea of sharpness, and therefore it's brought down other root explanations in the word Vayidaber from Russian Yadbeir. What Yadbeir can mean even to destroy, or it can mean to rule over in a how do you call it, a harsh way, without asking the makabel if he wants or not. And like we say in Tehillim, Vayadbeir Amim Tapteinu, that the Eivishter literally brought the other peoples of the world under our control. Vayadbeir Amim Tapteinu. Therefore, Yidaber is Lashon sharpness and koshiyas, and that's indicative that the Eivishter spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu with sharpness. Nonetheless, in that din and in that sharpness, Ani Havaya B'toich Zeh is the Rachus Vayomer, which is the Inim Fanamiro, the Inim Fanavaya, which is Rachamim B'Tachlis and Rachamim B'Doilim, Rachamim B'Shutim. That inside, the Vayidaber is really the Vayomer, and the Yidaber is Ein Chanami expressed in the Shem Alakim, and the Yema expresses the Indian of the Shema Havaya. We find throughout the whole Torah it's written Vayidaber Havaya El Moshe, but you find in most of the places that immediately after that it's written Lei Moyer. That's why how some of the great Meforshim answer, why is it written always Lei Moyer? That Moshe softened up, or rather Eivishter softened up the effect of Vayidaber. Why is it written B'Klau? Because when you're talking about laws and you've got to talk sharply and clearly to people realize that you mean this, that it's a inim and a hesred, and it's got to be done. A law is a chok be'etzim pnimiusay. Erefa Rachum B'Ti come along certain later Meforshim and back up that principle by saying that if we look carefully at the whole situation, why did the Eivishter make it so bad? After Moshe Rabbeinu spoke, all of a sudden Pari goes wild, he makes it, they're going to give you tevin, they're going to give straw anymore, and everything got worse, and the whole Golos became terribly worse, because we have a cloud that the Yidden were really only 210 years in Mitzrayim, became 400. The Brishis Ben Abasarim, the Eivishter said to Avraham Avinu that they would be 400 years in Mitzrayim, and Lepil they were only 210. How come the Eivishter just sweeps aside what he said? They answer that the koishi of the shibud and the difficulty and the unusual, unexpected enslavement in a cruel way on the part of the Mitzrayim, and Pari, that made up, that instead of it taking 400 years, it was enough 210 of that type of slavery. In other words, that they earned in 210 400, because it really got very, very terrible. And then there's another one. There's a famous cheshbon of their Rizal. What their Rizal said, that the Eibush had to take them out of Mitzrayim tremendously swiftly, because they already got down into the Shara Mem test, to the 49th gateway of the Tumah. Like it's put down in Medrash that they were Shruim be Mem test Share Tumah. Or had they stayed another short time in Mitzrayim, Chas v'sholim v'rachmoni nitlan, they might have fallen into the Shara Nun. Had they fallen into the Shara Nun of Tumah, then even Kaviyachal, the Eibush wouldn't have been able to take them out. I mean, the Eibush wouldn't be able to take anybody out of anything, but the Eibush would not have been able to, in the way he made the world, he wouldn't have been able to gain, make the Yidden, the Shluchim, the way he intended them to be in the world. In other words, that the Geula wouldn't have really had a tendency of effect. So therefore, they want to say that things are pretty tough here. They didn't have to be got out, because the Eibush can't leave them there anymore because of the Goydel Hatuma of Klippas Mitzrayim. On the other hand, he's got to have them there 400 years worth. So how's he going to get them out quick and have them there 400 years worth? The answer is to make the shibud heavy. But he had to do it really heavy because he had to get them out soon, and yet on the other hand, he had to give them 400 years worth. And therefore everything happened in a way that drastically everything got very bad. Kilo, in a very short time, things got drastically terrible, to the point that Moshe Rabbeinu himself could not, mitzad his yichud with his flock, and mitzad his yichud with his makablim, he couldn't take it, Moshe Rabbeinu. It was l'mayla me'af sharusay, l'kabel, mitzad the makablim, the fact, lama hara'isa lama, as he came with his kashiyah. Over, what does the Shem Elokim say to Moshe Rabbeinu in the light of what Rashi says, and Rachum Badin, in the light of also the Rabbeinu Bechaya and the Ramban, that give a cook. You think that it was a Inif and didn't. It was. But Yidav Elokim, I will really betoik that as a tremendous Rachamim, because I had to make it that way. It had to happen in such a way that the fellows get really worse in order to swing the issue that we would get them out at the right amount of moment, the right amount of time, and at the same time we were also paid the star of the 400 years. And if I hidden inside what was a tremendous din was really an unbelievable rachamim and a mercy on the Eibush, where he was, like we say in the Haggadah Shel Pesach, that he was chishev es hakate. He reckoned the kate in a special way. Instead of being a long kate, it was a very short one, almost half what you might call the price. And if Luffy said that Vayidab Elokim was really Ani Havaya, inside the Shem Elokim was really hidden a tremendous mercy and a tremendous union of Rachamim and B'Klau. They imply, the Rabbeinu Bechaya and the Ramban and other great Mephoshim, they imply that a man has to be makabel the difficulties of this world, and he has to be makabel in Yonim, which appear to him be shlila, and what are called in the Lashon at a pasuk isurim, sufferings, hardship. You have to receive them in a good way, because you never really can know what is the ultimate rachamim hidden in those inyanim. But there's a teiva, gedela, there's a pnimius, which is hidden inside those inyanim. And it is in the form of a dorach. And what appears to you on the outside is koshes. Ainu Elokim. Abu B'fnim b'teich there is rachum badin. If you're a mishalchim lefonai, says Rashi, you just go in front of me in my pnimias, the fonai, and you just take things and a pashta stick away. I like Rashi says later in his other pirush, that the greatness of the Ovis was not to be found again. They were such great men, and yet nonetheless they went pashut, and they never asked any shailas, until he says that Chaval al da'avdi v'loimi mishtachachin. It's a shame that these people are not around anymore. Even though I've got all these big people like you and other people really taking a heavy, what you might call, at Moshe Rabbeinu, mitzad the tmimus and the pashtas of the Ovis and their belief in this whole principle that really hidden inside the Tsar and the Yisurim is really hidden the Shem Havai, Racham, Mam. Normally, you must always be a mishalchim lefonai betmimas or bepashtas, not to come with complaints. Chas v'chol, chas v'cholila. That can Dirusha Rabbeinu B'chai and the Ramban b'derech klal, and that's the Teichen Divreihem. Comes along the Zohar HaKodesh, and the Zohar HaKodesh in Pasha Bereshis, and later on in Sefer Dvorim, the Zohar HaKodesh says that there's certain like mitzvahs or general holistic mitzvahs that we learn out from the Pasuk Shema Yisrael, Havaya Elokeinu Havaya Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus L'Olam Poech. And the Zohar HaKodesh says that there's like 13 or 14, up to 15 very basic things, what they're called pekudah. They're called like very central, positive commandments that you have to learn out from the Pasuk Shema Yisrael and the Inyan of Havaya Elokeinu, Havaya Echad, and Baruch Shem, with the whole Inyan. So the fourth one, these are the Zohar HaKodesh, the fourth main commandment is learned from the two words Havaya Elokeinu, Havaya Elokeinu, that you have to learn Pekudah, Revi'ah, the fourth mitzvah, literally, Laminda, to know, Sha'avaya Hu Elokim. The Havaya of Elokim are all one thing. That the Shem Havaya and the Shem Elokim are all Kula Chad. They're all one thing. And then it goes on with the whole thing, that you have to know that the Shem Elokim is like the black part of the flame, and the Shem Havaya is like the yellow part of the flame, but they're all the same flame, and they're all one thing. The whole Aveda of a mensch is to make sure that he's koilel the Shem Elokim inside the Shem Havaya to the point that he knows that they're all one thing, and that's also what's written in Bereshit, v'hoyu ma'oros. Yeah, but Barakia Hashamayim, that the sun and the moon is either from Havaya Elokim, and they are ma'oros. They're all one, because the ma'oros is written without a vowel, so it's like one word. Ma'oros, it's like one word. That the both of them are really one thing. The Shem Havaya and the Shem Elohim and the Shem Elokim. And the Zohar HaKodesh says that is a very central in the whole of Avodas Hashem and the whole Torah mitzvahs, to know that Havaya Hu Elohim. And then later over in Sefer Dvorim it mentions a very similar sort of lashon, that one of the central commandments of the Torah is to know that Havaya Hu Elohim. So wait a minute, Havaya and Elokim are different, aren't they? Havaya is the Inyan from the Shem Havaya Shel Mailami Medida Vagbola, Shem HaBligvul, the Shem HaEtzem, Shem Elokim is Gvula V'Tzimtzum. So come along certain Meforshim, and they want to say that Shem Elokim is the Teva, nature. Shem Havaya is L'mayla Mitzvah. Almost we might say the Mochi of the Inyan HaNitzim, isn't it? Yeah? Don't have a dremel in the middle of the Shem Havaya. Very good. So the Inyan of sometimes you can have a dremel, bahokit,
No, I'm learning on my learnings. I'm trying to follow up with it.
Very good. The Inyan from Shem Havaya is L'mayla Mikom Medidas Vagbolas. The Inyan from Shem Elokim is the Inyan HaTeva. And therefore Elokim, with a hey, Ho Elokim is B'gematria HaTeva. Now the truth is that there's a famous tshuva from one of the great Achronim, the great Rabbonim in later generation. He was called the Chacham Tzvi. I think I mentioned this to you once in the Shirim. But he was a tremendous poisek, And the Admurei Tzans, they are like Eineklik from the they descend through the father of the mother. I can't remember. They descend from the Chacham Tzvi. He was like their great grandfather. I once had a small boy in my house that he was a direct Eineklik from the Tzans, and he had a cousin of his with him, and they were in our house chatting away. They were little boys, and they were playing, and I had my Sforim shop, and now it's much bigger than it was. I had a copy of the Chacham Tzvi, the Charlotte Chus Chacham Tzvi. So he noticed it. So what did he do? He pulled it out and he hugged it. He hugged it to himself, and he gave it to this other little boy who was smaller than him, and he said, "Chap on." He said to me, "He said, grab it, take it." He said, "Do like that," and the guy did, and then he put it back in. And he said, "We've been taught that whenever you see the Chacham Tzvi, you have to hug it and put it back." Very nice. I was really taken with it. But they were direct Eineklik from the Tzanza. So the Tzanza was originally from the Chacham Tzvi. Anyway, the Chacham Tzvi's got a tshuva quite early in his sefer, and he says over there in that tshuva that the word teva is a hamtzua. It's an idea, or how do you call it, a chap of Chachmei HaTeva HaAchronim. He said from the latter period, scientific studies, they made up the word Teva. And he implies that in the early period commentators of Yidden, you do not find the word Teva. Never find it. In Chazal, Ein Loshen Kazet, Teva. And he says even in the great Rishonim also, you don't find it. And he said the word Teva is really a make-up of a whole group of scientists, but they came up with the word nature. But he said we don't find. So it's interesting to be boidik, but I must admit, the more I think about it, you look through the Ramban and all over the place, and the Hadikoins, the other great Meforshim, you won't find the word Teva. You don't find it ever, the word Teva. And maybe that was the whole problem. There was a Yid that he went off the track. He was a big moyach. But you ever heard of Spinoza? I don't want to sort of use any derogatory expressions about it because he was a Yid. But the Yidden put him in Cherem, the great Chachamim at that time. They put him in Cherem because he tainted that there was a thing called nature. And he said that nature is a ruling force all of its own. And he said that really the whole world runs from nature. And he said that the Abish is something that he made nature, but he left it behind, and he doesn't really mix into it, the cloud. And that's what they call agnosticism, more or less. And so he really got into trouble with the great Chachmei HaTeva. I think it was in the time of the Rabbeinu and Eibishitz or something like that. He probably heard him. I don't know if you guys don't. You guys are pretty uneducated in these matters. I'm not unhappy about that. It's a good thing. Anyway, that was Spinoza. As he tainted Teva. So it could be that what Chacham Tzvi means, that there were certain scientists that weren't really much on the side of Yiddishkeit, but they introduced this whole word nature. And the interesting thing is that Teva in Lashon Kodesh means drown. Teva is from the word tubu, b'yamsuf, to drown. In other words, it's a drowned cause. Right? Or it's a koyach which is hidden and drowned in the bria to be more honorable towards it. Shem Elokim. But the Chacham Tzvi says that there's no such thing as Teva. And that he was obviously around about that time that there was this big controversy that was caused by Spinoza in the whole spiritual world at that time. He was a very brilliant man, and he wrote this book about this philosophy, and it blew a lot of controversy into the world and required a lot of great authorities to stay where they really held, And so the Yidden came out very clearly with their statement. And so the Chacham Tzvi says that there can't be such a thing as Teva. Now listen carefully. He says, why can't there be such a thing as Teva? He said, because you say every day in davening, they say it twice, in Birchas Krishma, HaMachadish B'tuvi B'chol Yom Talmid Ma'aseh that the Eibster renews every day, and it renews every moment, the whole Maaseh Bereishis, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well, if you were to hear that, you wouldn't be just Well, I wish you would chuckle like that when you're in the middle of Billis Krishma, but you have to chuckle with Tainu. So, what does that mean? So it comes along the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, and the Alter Rebbe says, "Chadish b'tui kol regava." That every moment the Eibus is recreating the whole creation. So if every moment the Eibus is recreating the whole creation, every second it goes back to like it was Lifnei Sheshish Yemei Bereishis and starts all over again. And that's Shara Yichud V'Emunah. Does what the Alter Rebbe says in Shara Yichud V'Emunah. And Achriba says the Chacham Tzvi, you can't say there's any terror. There's nothing else. There's only the Eibster. Every second the Eibster is recreating the world. Where's the terror? There's nothing. There's no nature. There's no other force. There's only Elikus, which is holding it. B'chol regava. Not bad going, eh? I mean, that's his answer to this whole idea. And there is ain't terror. The Chacham Tzvi. It's just every second the Dvar Elokeinu Yokum Le'olam Ad Kan Direi. Yeah, a Chacham. He wants to tie that Havaya Hu Elokim is Posha. Elokim Ein Chanami is B'Gematria Teva. Once these guys started getting around with Teva, so the Yiddish Bali Gematrias found a very good Gematria for it, and they said, yeah, it's a Inivant, yeah, Gematria Ha Teva. Oh, was it a time that there's no Teva? It's really either the Shem Havaya. Emma, the Shem Havaya is really doing everything. Why does it not look to you that way? Why don't you see it? That's the Shem Elokim. In other words, the Shem Elokim is a Helim and a Hester on the Shem Havaya, which leads to a form of Chayas, which is Mislavish in the Nivra, and it keeps it going every second, of a really, that's on the Shem Havaya. It's completely dependent and bottled in the Shem Havaya. Imam does it attach Havaya Hu Eli. Yeah, that the Shem Havaya and the Shem Elokim, which is the Ina Teva, are really Hainu Hach. It's all one thing. And the Inyan of that Teva, which is that highest, the Shem Elokim, is not a Inyan on its own, Chas V'Sholem, but it is completely Kol, bottled inside the Inyan of the Shem Havaya. And on the contrary, its whole Inyan is to bring the Inyan of the Shem Havaya down in such a way that he will be able to be Mahaver every moment, the Bria. But who is Mahaver? The Shem Havaya, not the Shem Elokim. The Shem Elokim is only as it were, the resultant Chayas, which remains inside the Nivra every second. But what's really functioning inside that and giving it all its power is the Inyan of the Shem Havaya. Oh, yeah. Very nice. Why do we say Havaya Hu Elokim? We should say Elokim Hu We should say Elokim Hu Havaya. Since our whole purpose is to say that really the Shem Elokim is bottled inside the Shem Havaya, then we should say Elokim Hu Havaya. So Ein HaChanami, the Rizal Asad Kashya, the state in Sforim, B'Shem HaRizal, that he was Mashya Kushi Azois. It's not clear what is it. But I'm going to answer to it. As a matter of fact, I wanted to come to that, but we'll just have to work a little bit further, and then we'll come to a teretz on that Shaila also. Why don't we say Elokim Hu Havaya Imke? In other words, you always place the small one dependent on the higher one, and here it's key to you making the higher one dependent on the small one. Very good, very nice. And he was open to what certain people say was a kasha from the Arizal himself. A different Havaya Hu Elokim is going under an idea, and that's what we can suggest that the Zohar HaKodesh wants. that you should look at the world like the Chacham Tzvi said, that every moment it's only the power of the Shem Havaya functioning through a medium. And like we see in Tanya, he brings it Shemesh U Mogain. It's like the sun and the sheath which is around the sun. Yeah? Havaya and Elohim, of what's really doing everything. Yeah, Betuich or Bepnimis, is the Shema Havaya. And therefore there's a famous mimer for the Rebbe Rashav in Tov Rishon and Zion, which is called the Moskva Vayodaita. But over there he brings the posuk Vayodaita Hayoim V'Hashevaiso Elevavelcha Ki Havayahu Elohim B'Shamayim Memal V'Oros Mitochas Ein. We say it every day in Elohim. So we see that that's a beginning in the whole Torah. That's put down in Sefer Dvarim. You're a daita, you have to know, Rosh Da'at, which is of some use to the Loim Day Eter at the moment. So we see the great Mila of Da'at. Anyway, Lafise, kommt euch, that Havaya, Hu Elokim, is korps a andere Indian, is korps a Pelidik Zach, that there's no Teva, and that the whole Indian of what we see to be the Anovis Olam is just that we don't quite see, because there's a Hilem in front of us which is Mitzad the Indian Shemalakim. Aber the Alter Rebbe brings another Indian Beneged to Zet Lazeh, and the Alter Rebbe says, but there's still L'chora two different Inyonim, and they still L'chora work slightly one against the other. So how come along you say Havaya Hu Elokim, they're mamish kula had mamish to the point that Ein Lahafri Peneim Klalu Klal. Zot the Alter Rebbe Givaku. Would you have achieved anything had you had a world that was just purely Mitzad Hashem Havaya? I mean, you would have. But would you? Why? Because the whole world would just be completely and utterly bottled. There might have been episodes, a Matthias, but it would have been a Matthias like Chochmah Datzilas. It would have just been completely and utterly absorbed in the Indian of Elikus. There would never really been any Nivro, a created being in the way we know him, that feels himself separate and becomes Botil to the Eivishter and brings Moshiach. Now, that would not have been. There would never have been a Zamet Sotar. So the Alter Rebbe said, therefore, the greatest chesed that the Eivish ever did was the Shem Elokim. And he says, why? Why is that? Because the ultimate purpose of Hashem was dear b'tachtoinim, that there has to be the tachtoin. And that's the whole kavanah, and that's the whole ultimate chesed that Hashem did, that He made, as it were, a separate entity for Himself and gave Him everything. He gave Him His whole atzmas in the dira b'tachtoinim, which will be b'tachas sagila b'korev mamish. That can't. There's no greater chesed than that. That is the emes of chesed. What is chesed? That you have a separate person, a separate entity, and you give him pashpur. That's a chesed. And the Father Abraham had to have a separate person, and a separate entity, as it were, give him all the unbelievable gifts that He gives him. And he's not really doing anything from his side. Nothing really exists anyway. And yet Avu became. The Abraham plays this amazing, as it were, game, even with himself. What does he need that for? He wants that you should be makabel, and that you should be a kli l'dirot for. So a greater chesed than that couldn't possibly be. And that's it. The pshat havaya v'yidaber elokim v'yayim alov ani hava. That's really the Shem Havaya. The Shem Elokim is the greatest chesed and rachamim. I guess a rachamim for them konizai. It was a chesed for rachamim. Ani havaya chesed for rachamim. How do you bring the Alter Rebbe? And if he said that you peoples now here in Mitzrayim are gaining this whole new gili, what I'm showing you, that Havaya Ve'Elokim Kul Echad, that there's really no Mitzrayim, there's really nothing is really happening. It's all just part of a plan of the Eibushter's Gilui, and I had to go through for reasons known to him that you have to be a tamim, you have to be a mishalak lofonai, batomim, I need to receive it. Although I'm going to reveal to you, and I'm already doing it to a certain extent. I've already revealed to you through some of the nisim. That's l'mayla me'ateva, l'mayla me'hagbola, with the whole inyan. It's a you people are being zeichet to the Gilui Hashem Havayim mamish in the highest way. Yeah. Hey, what do you come? That's in the second chapter, right? What are you complaining about? And in addition to that, Vayera el Avram, you'll say, well, I already gave everything to the fathers. I didn't. Vayera, I appeared to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, because comes along the Ben Chomish Lamikra, the little boy who learns in Feder. And he said, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that the Eibushter didn't appear to the Ovis in the Shem Havaya? The first time he appears to Avram Avinu was with the Shem Havaya. Vayemer, Havaya, El Avram, Lech Lecho, Me'atcha Me'ladin Me'techem. So what do you want better? He appears to Avram Avinu the first time. Shema, Havaya, Yud Kevok. I mean, what do you mean he never appeared to he never appeared to the always B'Shem Havaya? What do you know? Only Bekel Shindalad Yud Enochanami. You did appear in certain cases in Shindalad Yud, or you did appear in the form of Shema Havaya. So Rashi says, yeah, Enochanami. But I'm talking only about the Havtoches and this, and therefore Rashi says it's only in certain places because it's got to do with Havtoches. Rashi sort of warns that kasha a little bit. Also, of course, it still remains in the Inyan HaKloli that he did appear to the others in the Shema. So how can he say himself, I didn't? I only appeared to them in the Shem Kel Shindalet Yud. So comes along Siddur and says about that a really amazing thing. Siddur says that there's a certain level of the Shem Havaya which is really the Shem Shindalet Yud. It's really a Gilui Hashem Havaya, but it's called Shindalet Yud because it's got a little bit more Islapsis in the Teva than the Yud Hashem Havaya. But really, if you think about it very carefully, and you come after a long series of meditations and reflections and studying and all the rest, you see that it's really the Shem Havaya Mamish, and that's what we call a famous Lashon, which is put in Drusha Tzidim, in the Drushim of the Rebbe Rashab, Reimamus Hateva, elevation and they call it lifting up into the heights, the Inyan of the Teva. And that is that we see there are two types of Nisim Boivakvoli. There are Nisim, which are Yetzim Midach Teva, and that's in the Shem Havaya Mamish. And that's what we see with these Nisim which happened in Mitzrayim. They were Mamish, the Gilui the Shem Havaya. And then there are Nisim which are called Muluboshim B'Darchei HaTeva. In other words, Anes, but it seemed to come, as it were, through natural, what you call media. And the Nes of Purim is brought down as a dogma. Yeah, Achashverosh also got a Mishugas that he has to have a new queen, and he chose Esther, and then for some reason he was attached to her more than all the other wives and all the rest of them, the whole and he was prepared to listen to anything she said, and then she brought Mordechai into the scene, and this, and in the end, he didn't gain the upper hand, and Ois Amalek, and Ois Haman, so it all seems to make sense, And then the Megillah says, one night Mordechai was listening to these two Rishonim talking together how they're going to put the king down, and he walks and tells the king who writes it down, and then everybody forgot. All of a sudden one night the king wakes up and he says, wait a minute, what do we do for Mordechai? And then when Haman comes in, how it all sort of comes together. All sorts of these little causes and effects are all linking together, but everybody said it was a Nes Purim. Ala Nisim, ala Nifloy, Shasis, ala Visenu, Bayom, and Wayim, Bisman, Nisim and Nifloy. It's all Teva. So it's up to that's a very high form of a Nes. It's a Nes which comes Malubish in the Inyan Ateva. It's really an S, but it's got like clothing on it that can cause you to have a slight mistake and think it's all Teva. But if you read the Megillah the right way, like Mittler Rebbe said when he heard the Megillah, not from the Alter Rebbe, he said, "Oh, it's a Sheina Maisa." That's a really amazing story, you know. Lefise, come to us, that there's Shem Havaya inside the union of Teva, and he's really Shem Havaya. If you just look carefully, you really see that it's a net. Now that's called Shin Dalet Yud. And I've heard the word Shin Dalet Yud got two taich to it, and that fits beautifully with those two in Yonah. One taich in Shin Dalet Yud is die, meaning enough. You can't go any more about. Up to here, I know. But I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit sort of how do you call it? It's heated here, and I'm banging around at the table, and who knows what's happening over here. Very good. So there's one pirush, the die meaning enough. And therefore the Eibusher Keilah said, enough, he placed Gvul in the Bria. That's Shin Dalet Yud, Gvul, Tzimtzum. In that case, it's very similar to the Shem Elokim. Therefore there's a whole discussion in Kabbalah, what's the difference between ordinary Shin Dalet Yud and Shem Elokim. However, there's another pirush brought down in Chassidus and written in the Medrash, that it says that Achiyivlu Sifsei Secha Milema die. In other words, the die can mean, it's just going so much that we have to say die because it's kilo beyond that. Or, in another expression in Lashon and Medrash, Shedai ani be'elukusi l'kol beria. I am enough. I can give enough elukus to every beria that he will know about me and be batil to me. Amam lefizek of the inifet Shin Dalet Yud has gotten itself the concept of elukus l'maylo me'yagbo, gili elukus, mami. So how can you have the both of them? Well, that's what happened with the Ovis. The Eibusher revealed himself to them in such a way that it was really nature, it was limitation, but it was an elevated limitation. It was Purim. It's like a nature, but a wrong when it goes down to Mitzrayim. All of a sudden, my happens with Sarah. And all of a sudden, Para, he gets a dream, and he gets something else. All of a sudden, a wrong, and he becomes a Gevira, a tremendous rich man, going all these riches, and he can't even carry them. And Sarah gets rescued, and the whole thing, they just walk calmly out of Mitzrayim as if nothing happened. And the same with Avimelech, and the Olamaz, and the Olinyonim, that we see that everything was killed in Teva, but it was left. So that's a inyan, that's a very special form of revelation that the Eibusher made to the Oveis. But Afu Pikein, it's not a Shem Havaya all on his Mamish, all on his own, that they didn't get. And so therefore the Alter Rebbe says in Torah, the skill, the Shem Havaya is shy to the Shem Shaddai. And then the Shem Havaya, on his own, Levat. And that's Nisim Hayechim Midar Teva Alter. And you might say, well, come to us, that they might, that Nisim is a Mulubashi, but Teva, they have a mile, they're like a yichud, or a mile of Yagvu, Ima, Agvu. That's a tremendous yichud. Ein Achanam, Zeh Nachon. Or there's a mile in Shem Havaya Lifnei Atzmoi. And what is that? Nobody can have any mistakes whatsoever. Even the Goyim. In other words, that in that level, the Nisim Mulubashi, but Teva, and some people say it was all Teva. No, it's I remember after the 6-Day War, which is that they occurred the most unbelievable Nisim. There were some cynics that said, we just had better airplanes, we had better pilots, we were this and we were that, You almost had nothing. And in many cases, there weren't even any battles. They chased after them. They was running in all directions. And Hebron, they just walked out. Yeah, because they were dead scared. They were the ones that gave a lot of trouble. And the rebels said, there was a good opportunity to get rid of all the troublemakers. And because they didn't listen to the Rebbe, even to this day, there's tzuras from all their descendants and all their Talmidim Kavioch in Hebron. So they just walked out. You could have caught up and you could have settled the scores, but they knew who they were even. The troublemakers. They just left them. If you don't listen to Melech HaMashiach, you just make trouble. What can we do? Anyways, so we see that there's a mile in Shem Havaya, Bifnei Atzmei. Oh, I'm sorry. So what did these people say? Oh, we had good planes, we had pilots, we had this, we had something else, we had a better sort of a rifle or something. I used to all of many studios. Over the embassy is that it was for the Vayera Teives. Oh, by next year, it's like I'm in Derech HaTeva. Nobody can have any more. Nobody can have any mistake. Or it's written, you say every day when you say the Shir Sayyam in davening, all the kings then they all got into a pachad, Kriyas Yamsu, through an unbelievable pachad al Kulam. And that's seen from the Shem Havaya L'Gamri Levad. That's Maluvish in the Shem Shin Dalit. Even if it's Kilo Mizgabe al Shin Dalit. That's what the Avish is saying to Moshe Rabbeinu. Look here, you guys are being zeicha now to Gili Shem Havaya Bifnei Atzmei L'Gamri L'Mayla Mi'ateva Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know the word Teva V'Klal. No, completely beyond any Islapsis in Dachi or Elam or any of that nature. Elikus Mamish Begol. So therefore, you're even more fortunate than the others. That's a whole new step forward. The second Pirush of Havaya Elokim, but that will be Messiah. The second Pirush of Havaya Elokim, this will help us to answer your question. A much deeper and amazing idea that's brought down in Kama Makimas in Lekutei Torah from the Alter Rebbe. Havaya Hu Elokim means that Shem Havaya is really only Shem Elokim. The Shem Havaya is a Helen V'Esther, L'Gabi, Pnimis HaKesev U'Lamayla Mizeh. In other words, that there's a level in Gili Elokus and in Pnimis V'Achmi Ein Seif, which even Shem Havaya, with all its miles, is a Helen V'Esther Kilo. It's also how do you call it, like a Shem Elokim, L'Gabi, Atzmas Ein Seif. And remember, Havaya, Hu Elokim, that the ultimate Shem Havaya to the Shem Havaya. And Kaviohul is like a certain film of Helem, L'Gabi the Atzmas, and that's called the Shem Havaya. In Mamela, on Yom Kippur, we shout, I don't know how many times, Havaya Hu Eloi. Da kommt again sein Kauchia. We should say Elokim Hu Havaya. No. What we mean to say is that if there's any Hel Havaya left after Yom Kippur, it's the Shem Havaya. The Shem Havaya was so high that what could possibly be the only Hel which is left of the Shem Havaya? And therefore we say Havaya Hu Elokim. That the Shem Havaya is the only Elokim which is left. Not bad, eh? And if I come to it, that there's a high level that you say that I don't know, there's no Hel Havaya at all. There's only one little Hel Havaya, the Shem Havaya. And who held by that Madrega? Yaakov Avinu. Therefore he said, you have Shavti v'Sholem El Beis Avi, I'll come back in peace in my father's house. V'hoyo Havaya li le'elokim. And behold, the Shem Havaya will be to me like an Elokim. Bring the Alter Rebbe in the Torah. The Alter Rebbe says that Yaakov Avinu reached such an unbelievably high madrega that he was like we are after the whole Yom Kippur. He said the only Hel Havaya left is the Shem Havaya. It's after all Hashem. It's a tremendous madrega, but it's some sort of show. It's not mamish there. Yeah, the Atzma. And so that's going to be the Gilui Liosid. That'll be the Gilui for Lee. Yeah, for Liosid, that the Elohim will be the Shema. What do you need it for? Just be Megaladi, the Atzmas, and that's it. What do you need a Kilo Ahelim called the Shema Havaya? And it teaches that Shema Havaya after all means Lahabis. It brought about the whole world. If I remember, the whole world is still going to have to be there, Liosif Lowe. Aimachanam is one Gemara in Sanhedrin, it says there'll be like a period time where there'll be nothing. But that's not the ultimate. The ultimate is that there'll be, he says that's good. Nothing, well, that'll be great. You've got to sit around and smoke a cigar. Nothing. It won't be quite that sort of nothing. But anyway, whatever. It's what says that's a madrega for Chokma. What Chokma is in for Chokma me ayin timotei. It's all Matthias is nothing. And if Liosid is going to be Atzmas, they say, to a world. It's going to be two existing entities. Yo. I feel the what do you call him, Michal White? He's going to be there, and the Avis is going to reveal himself to Michal White and to everybody. In other words, that there's going to be a world, and therefore that koya to bring about the world in the Shema Havaya. That's out to the Alter Rebbe says, who can create Yesh Mi'ayin? Only the Atzmas. So I mean, anyway, the Shema Havaya is really the Atzmas, but he's the Atzmas in a form of practicality towards the world. And so he's like the famous expression. He's like that little porcupine or whatever it is, that he's Levush and him are the same thing. So the Abish is Atzmas says over the Shema Havaya. It's who Havaya, who Elohim, Havaya called V'Havaya, Elohim Kulei Chad. In other words, Liosid Davki is going to be the perfection of this whole concept. And therefore, Havaya, Hu Elohim Ador. Davki Boy for Kozeh. So how do we get to it? Well, we get to it by living that way, knowing that really there's no Elohim anymore, and everything is ready, and that the whole world is just the Gilui of the Shema Havaya to make the Yeshmi Ayin, but the purpose is to bring into that Atzmas Ein Sof Mamash. No more Teva. The Chacham Tzvi says that Teva never began, and there was never was any such thing as Teva. Achas Kama V'Kama, once you learn to this, what is Teva? Ain't. What is left? What the Rebbe said, what is left? Rak Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach Tzidkenu. That's all that's left. And the truth of the matter is, it's been like that for a heck of a time. Yaakov Avinu was already holding by that. And he said to Esav, here I am, man. Vayili Shoel v'chamer. Shoel is Mashiach ben Yosef, Chamer is Mashiach ben David. I've already got the whole thing ready. What's with you, man? And they came the Malachim came back and I said, oh, forget about this Esav guy for the moment. It's bitter and nice. So Yaakov Avinu was very upset. Comes along Moshe Rabbeinu and he said, no, we're going to make Moshiach. We're going to make Moshiach now. And if Moshe Rabbeinu was Makar of all those Gerim, all the area of Rav that they came out of Mitzrayim, Moshe Rabbeinu made them. And he didn't kill even Asi Abish. He didn't think he needed Asi Abish. Because Moshe Rabbeinu believed that now we're going to have the Shema Havaya, Begolui. And that's how we can make the perfect world, and therefore everybody's got to. And Yosef also started the whole idea. He wanted the Mitzvah to have Milah. He wanted the whole thing should start over. That's a skate fair and Mamish, a whole new world. Moshe Rabbeinu was convinced that he's going to go into Eretz Yisrael, there's going to be a Beis Hamikdash, and it's going to be Nitzchi. That's it. Heal the world of Melech HaMashiach. Believe Melech HaMashiach. It's already there. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu thought. And in fact, there's an amazing Gemara which says that Liasid Lowe, the tzaddikim are going to be called Shem Havaya. That's going to be their name. So Yomar Babash. Asidim tzaddikim likore, al shmoy shal kutchabrios, and Rashi learned how the extra state is in the Gemara, it's the Shem Havaya. So the Far, I saw a great Talmud from the Baal Shem Tov, and he says in his Pirush al HaTorah, he's called what's he called, the Ginzei Yosef, he calls himself. He's one of the less well-known Talmudim of the Baal Shem Tov. And he says, Vayidaber Elokim el Moshe v'yem alav ani havaya. That Moshe Rabbeinu was of the opinion that we're holding now for Mashiach. And remember, the Emes of Tzaddikim, they can already be called Shem Havaya. And they can make everybody get it and skate well, and they can sit and over there, the kids of Abe said, wait a minute. We haven't quite come to that yet. Ani Havaya, but you not yet. When I saw that, my eyes jumped out. It's an amazing shot. The David said, I know what you mean, Moshe Rabbeinu. Du willst jetzt ein Euchet, das wir. You want to be the Shem Havaya, and you want to make all these scary, and you want to make the ganze Welt. Yeah, in ganzen Elohim, it's a little bit symptomatic for the moment. It's not going to be quite that way. Well, Moshe Rabbeinu heard that, but he still couldn't stop. And he still felt it was time to make the world into Mashiach. And Yaakov did the same. He kept trying the whole time. That's why he said Yosef to the brothers, a whole big beer, I'll be Pnimi. Mashiach now. And that was Moshe Rabbeinu. And he picked it up from Hashem. Hashem said, Shem Havaya legamri b'fnei atzmei. He said, there's no Helen of Esther. The only Helen of Esther is Shem Havaya himself. Therefore, the tzaddikim also, we're all ready. Well, here we are. So it's tragic in a way. The Erev system, yes, Emes, it's still not quite ready. That not quite has taken a long time. Until came along Melech HaMashiach himself. And he said, listen here, guys, it's all finished. The whole waiting time, the fact that the Avish says, no, Moshe Rabbeinu, not quite yet. It's not quite the moment for it, that's completed. So, Havaya hu Elokim in the Pirush Amiti, that's all there, Gili Elokus Atzma Sein Seif Lamata, through the Matthias of the world. That's what we're holding by right now. And the Father, that same Sefer, the Ginzei Yosef, he said that everything that happened in Pasha Vayera is a remez to what's going to happen to Yosef. Now they looked. So we're holding by big pieces. We're holding by big inyanim. And this happens to be Rosh Chodesh, this Shabbos. So Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh all get together, and that's it. That's come. All sorts of gewaldige inyanim. I'll never take of Miyad Mamish.
Is it in this parsha where Moshe disappeared for a year and they thought he was dead? Is it in this parsha where Moshe disappeared for a year and they thought he was dead? Is it in this parsha where Moshe disappears for a year and they didn't think he was dead?
They didn't make a mistake?
No,
Is it this parsha that Moshe disappeared for a year? Is it this parsha that Moshe disappeared for a year?
Appeared?
Disappeared.
Disappearing?
Did Moshe disappear?
Yeah, Moshe disappeared at the end of last week's parsha. Last week's parsha. But the Zohar Kodesh, near the beginning, says that Moshe Rabbeinu just went up into a Hilim, and he's going to come back as Melech Moshiach. As they stated in the Zohar Kodesh. So I'm sure you can just make a brief cheshbon as to what is happening. It should be all b'chesed uva rachamim, take of miyad mamish, and it should be in an even from gilui elokus simcha gedela va'a shuma simchas elam al reishon. Amen.